The Early Math Project team members will explore the connection between children's literature and math. Participants will learn about effective reading strategies, family engagement resources, and original games and activities that have been designed to accompany some of our favorite children's books. Please welcome the Early Math Project. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Carolyn Pfister, and these are my colleagues, Dana McFay, Lisa Grant, and Malia Gonzalez, and of course Luna, the Early Math Project activities tester and fun advisor. This breakout session will focus on a very brief overview of early math, a rationale for using children's literature as a tool for supporting early math development, ideas for using children's literature effectively, and free resources for teachers, families, and communities.
Children begin learning mathematical concepts in infancy. While we often associate math with numbers and counting, the earliest math begins as children start the journey of making sense of their world, and that involves a lot of math. Infants learn through exploration. They develop expectations about what will happen, and they associate crying with being picked up, being fed, or being soothed. These cause and effect relationships build problem-solving skills, predicting skills, and teach very young children that they have an impact on the action of others. Infants and toddlers are naturally curious about themselves and the objects in their environment. They spend a lot of time exploring and learning how objects move and fit. They test to see what spaces they can crawl into, and they see what objects will fit inside another object. These early explorations foster an understanding of the interrelationships between objects and how objects fit and move in space. Infants and young children practice problem-solving skills in a variety of ways. They imitate behavior and actions of others and use trial and error to figure out what works. So if you've watched an infant roll over or scoot along to reach an interesting object, or if you've seen a child gesturing that they need help with something they can't do on their own, then you've seen their problem-solving skills in action. Young children develop expectations of objects. They group, sort, classify objects by their characteristics. Infants are aware of the differences in quantities of small sets of objects, and toddlers use relationship words like more and same when comparing quantities and objects. Infants can recognize quantity before they can count. A very young child knows which plate contains more of a favorite snack, even before they can express that there are 3 cookies on one plate and only 2 on the other plate. Young children need lots of practice counting in many different situations. And many children's books with an overt mathematical theme are counting books. And while counting is a very important aspect of math, it's important to reinforce children's understanding of cause and effects, shapes, patterns, sorting, measurement comparisons, classifications, spatial relationships, as well as counting. Most children's books, whether they have an overt math theme or not, provide lots of opportunities to do this. And math is a common part of many children's books. While some children's books are written around mathematical concepts and themes, there are ways to make mathematical connections with books that don't have an apparent mathematical theme. Children's literature is often a great vehicle to use for predicting, recognizing patterns, talking about sequences, and understanding positional words, making comparisons, recognizing shapes, and classifying objects. Children's books can show how math is used in everyday situations, like building something, saving money to buy an object, predicting what will come next based on what has already happened. Children's books allow children to see other people as mathematical thinkers and problem solvers. It's important for children to see other people who are not like themselves involved in math because it debunks the idea that only some people are good at math. Everyone is mathematical. Children should learn that when things don't go as planned, it's important to persevere. Everyone makes mistakes, and mistakes should be seen as a learning opportunity, not a reason to give up. We know that math anxiety is an issue for quite a few people. We also know that many adults feel comfortable reading to children, and reading to children's literature can be a comfortable entry point for adults who are anxious about math. Children's literature can support family engagement with math. Many families routinely read with their children, and it's easy to share ideas and strategies with parents and guardians to show how they can read with their children and also support mathematical understanding. It's fun and it's simple to do. Children's books are great conversation starters. They provide a way to talk about how math is meaningful and useful and how it is a part of daily routines, like cooking or saving money, building a fence, or buying something at the grocery store. And lastly, children's literature is a springboard to exploration. For many, a book about cooking leads to measurements in the kitchen. A book about counting seeds can lead to sprouting seeds and planting a garden. To illustrate the power of children's books, let's look at 2 pages from Stuart Murphy's book, Betcha. We see in these illustrations a traffic jam, which is an everyday scene familiar to people who live in cities. It's something that most people can relate to. The illustrations and text can be the start of a mathematical conversation on how to estimate the number of cars stuck on a block. Adults and children explore different ways to talk about this. We see 2 children as mathematical thinkers, and the text and illustrations provide a comfortable entry point for an important mathematical concept. A little advanced preparation will make story reading more meaningful. We recommend that you read a book first before you read it to the child, so you're comfortable with the text and know what's going to happen. Figure out what mathematical ideas the book touches on and how to reinforce those ideas. You can consider where you might pause while reading the story and what questions you might think to ask. Look at the illustrations and see what opportunities they provide to count, compare, identify patterns, classify objects, predict, recognize shape, and estimate.
While you read, be comfortable pausing and talking about what is happening. Ask the child questions and encourage the child to ask questions too. Make it interactive. Ask the child to predict what will come next. Notice what is happening in the pictures. Pause when you come to a predictable word and let the child fill in the missing word or words that they know. Use fun voices for different characters. Make it fun. After you've read the story, talk about new words that may be unfamiliar. Ask open-ended questions and ask your child to explain their thinking and reasoning. Refer back to events that took place in the story and find ways to play with and explore the math ideas in the story. For example, if you've been reading a book in which the characters prepare food, explore different types of food measurement tools together. For example, teaspoons, tablespoons, cups, and then prepare a meal or snack together. If you've been reading a book in which there are a lot of patterns, go on a pattern scavenger hunt. Look for patterns in nature or repeating patterns on clothing. Stuart J. Murphy has prepared this fun video clip for us on integrating math and reading. I hope you'll enjoy it.
Hi, my name is Stuart J. Murphy. I'm the author of the Math Start series. Math Start is a series of 63 books that teach mathematical concepts in the context of stories. 21 of those books are for pre-K and K. I'm going to talk a little bit now about how you read a storybook that contains mathematical content to children and how to do that most effectively. And I'm going to use one of the pre-KK books as an example. The book is called Jack the Builder. Now, when you're reading a story to children, of course, it's very helpful if you become familiar with the book yourself beforehand. If you study the book a little bit, read it a few times, and think about, okay, what do you find exciting about the story, and what do you want to stress? What do you want to emphasize as you're reading the story to a child? And then when you begin a story, any story, but particularly a story that's a picture book that contains mathematical ideas, it's really important that you start with the cover, the end papers, and the title page. I say that because this is our preface. Those of us who write picture books don't get a preface. And so we have to use those pages and plan those pages to introduce you to the protagonist of the story. In this case, it's Jack, and a little bit about what it's about. I mean, look at the cover. There's Jack. What's he doing? He's got a rocket ship. What's going on in the background? What do you think the story is about? And then you open it up, and there are the end papers filled with blocks. And then you move on to the title page, and there's Jack building with blocks. Jack the Builder. And then as you go through the story, now you're ready to begin the story, and as you go through it, you have to think about the merger of the math content and the storyline. You know, that's one of the hardest things I do in writing my books, is trying to make sure they become one, that the math doesn't take over, because then it may become too workbooky. And then what happens is the story has to keep on moving and keep the child motivated and excited. And so both of those things have to work together and really become one. For example, when Jack has 3 blocks and he's ready to add 2 more, he doesn't have to go back and recount the 3. He knows he's got 3, so he can count on from the 3. 3, 4, 5. And of course, there's a visual model for that. The visual models are very, very important to reference as you're reading the story. And there are the illustrations as well. You know, in a picture book, the text only tells half the story. The pictures tell the other half, and they come together to tell the whole story. So it's very important to talk about the illustrations, the artwork as you move along. What's going on here? What's Jack thinking? What do you think he's building? And then you turn the page and you see he's taken his 5 blocks and he's built a ferry boat out on the sea. Then as you move through the story, it's good to every so often talk about the story, bring up ideas, ask the child what they're thinking, what they might be predicting might be going to happen next. Make it interactive. Make it fun. And then when you get to the end of the story, you'll see in this story, Jack is ready to start building all over again. And you need to be ready to start all over again too. You need to be able to start asking a few questions about the story. How did you feel about it? How did Jack feel? How did you feel you could apply it to your life? Have you ever seen anything like this yourself? And then think about that really most important question of all. Would you like to read the story again? Would you like to revisit Jack the Builder and spend a little more time with him? Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Stuart. Now let's look at some questioning strategy, some opportunities to support mathematical understanding. Ask questions that provide children an opportunity to consider what happened in the story and predict what they think may come next. Ask questions that give children an opportunity to explain their thinking. When possible, have them show you how they arrived at a conclusion. Explore if there are other ways and approaches for solving problems and answering questions. Look for ways for children to articulate that persistence is important. For example, in the book, The Most Magnificent Thing, a story about designing and building a magnificent object. A girl inventor is frustrated when her creations don't work out as planned. She persists through many attempts, gets angry and frustrated, but doesn't give up. Questions that showcase how characters keep trying even when they make a mistake or when something doesn't work are an opportunity for children to talk about why it's important not to be defeated by mistakes and to persist. Questions can also be designed to reinforce understanding of new words encountered in the story and give the child an opportunity to use these words so they become part of their own vocabulary. We recommend questions that help a child relate to the events that happened in the story. It gives children a chance to reflect on the math they use in their own lives and routines and show how others use math in different situations and in different ways. Children who are learning to count need lots of practice with this skill. Storybook illustrations provide a great opportunity to count and compare quantities. As you're thinking about what to talk about in the books you read, develop questions that allow the child to compare, classify, infer what will happen next, and explore the spatial relationships that are shown in the book. So let's look at a counting story together. There are numerous counting stories for children. With this one, let's focus on mathematical ideas and questions that go beyond counting. Luna will read through a portion of a very short story. As she reads, please think about questions and conversations you would explore when reading this story with the child. We will pause at the end of the story for you to enter your ideas.
Aaron did not have pets. He wanted 12, a dozen animals to keep him company. What would his parents think about that? An elephant. He would fly to Africa and bring one home. And walruses, 2 with tickly whiskers. He wanted 3 kangaroos to jump with on his bed. Several friendly goats would keep the pasture trimmed. 4 would be enough. Bath time would be more fun with 5 river otters. Sheep, in case he couldn't sleep. Aaron wanted half a dozen to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Thank you, Luna. Great job. Okay, so you know children enjoy having a favorite book read many times. Ideally, the reading should be interactive with opportunities for the child and reader to make a few observations and talk about important story elements. However, this shouldn't happen so frequently that the storyline is lost. Take a few moments to enter your ideas below about the questions and conversations for the pages of this story. And here we see the cover of 12, the book that Luna just read part of. Book covers are a fun way to predict what a book may be about. Take the opportunity to talk about what a book may be about before you read it with the child. When you're done, go back and consider if your prediction was true, partly true, completely off base. So here are some questions we thought about to support math thinking. What do you think the book is about, and why do you think that? What types of animals do you see on this cover? What do you think is going to happen in this story? Why do you think the author called the book 12? Which of the animals is the biggest? Which is the smallest? If you had to put these animals into 3 groups, by what characteristic would you group them? And what animals would go into each group? Which of these animals often lives on a farm? Which ones don't? Which animal do you think weighs the most? Which weighs the least? Which animals do you think weigh about the same? How about questions for this page? For vocabulary development, what does the word dozen mean? What number is 1 dozen equal to? Would your parents let you have 1 dozen pets? Why or why not? How many of these animals could fit in Aaron's bedroom? Which animal has the biggest ears? What animals are near the walrus? Do you think an elephant would fit through the door of a house? Why or why not? Which creatures have the most legs? Which has the least? Do you think Aaron's parents will let him have 12 pets? How much time will it take Aaron to take care of these animals every day? How are the animals different from each other? How are they the same? So these are some of the questions we came up with. We hope you've entered some of your own. Children may want to say what the adults in their life would think about this situation. Lots of children relate to the idea of convincing their parents to getting a pet. If the child does want to share, ask them to explain why or why not their parents or guardians would think 12 animals or a dozen animals would or would not be a good idea. It's also an opportunity to talk about responsible pet ownership and why most of these animals aren't suitable pets. And here we see Aaron in the bath with those 5 river otters. Depending on the age of the child, they may realize that the number of animals increased by 1 every time Aaron wants a new animal. You might ask an older child if Aaron will have more than 12 animals by the time the 5 river otters come to live with him. Ask the child to make a drawing that represents the total number of pets Aaron will have once the 5 otters and all of the animals preceding them come to stay with him. How many more than 12 animals will he have? If the pattern continues, how many animals will he have when he gets to the 12th type of animal? Again, depending on the age of the child, this page provides an opportunity to talk about geometric shapes, like parallelograms and spheres, tessellations and positional words related to the placement of the otters. Some more questions that we came up with about those positional words. How many otters are inside the tub? How many otters are at the back of the tub? How many at the front? How many are behind the tub? How many otters do you think are wet? How come? And this is the page with Aaron counting sheep. The page provides an opportunity to talk about the meaning of half. Ask an older child why half a dozen and 6 mean the same thing, and how they know they are correct. Other questions might be, why do you think some objects in the story are gray and others are in color? If Aaron has 6 sheep and lets you take half of them home with you, how many sheep will you have at your house? I know I would have none because my mother wouldn't allow it. All right, we're going to switch gears a little bit. Let's do some fact checking. I want you to think about whether these statements are true or false. And you're just going to think to yourself or maybe with the person that you're watching with. So here's a statement, true or false? Parents are more willing to engage in helping their children with reading than with math. Is that true or false? If you said true, that's correct. This is one of the reasons why books can be an effective tool for helping parents to engage more actively in their children's math development. This is particularly true for parents who feel anxious about math, but are pleased to read books with their children. Okay, let's look at another one. What do you think, true or false? Parents are more likely to view math as the responsibility of the school than they are to view reading as the responsibility of the school. Is that true or false? Okay, this one is also true. It isn't uncommon for parents to want math instruction to be the sole responsibility of the school, since these same parents will often gladly read to their children, convincing them to select certain books and read in ways that enhance mathematical understanding is a win-win. Okay, last one. True or false? The characters who drive the story don't really make a difference to a child's comprehension of mathematical ideas. Is that true or false? We believe this probably isn't true. Characters do matter. Researchers have found that in other areas, children are more likely to internalize concepts and ideas that are gained from human story characters. They identify more with people than with animal characters. Some researchers feel that this is likely to be true for math-related literature as well.
When selecting children's books, be mindful that there are an abundance of children's books that explore a counting theme. We recommend that you select children's books that include a wide range of mathematical themes: shapes, problem solving, positional words, measurement, money, and time, in addition to counting. We need to convey that everyone has the ability to succeed with math with some effort and persistence. Since we infer that children may learn mathematical concepts better from human characters than animal characters, look for books with human characters. Brain science has debunked the idea that only some people have what it takes to be successful with math. Adults need to be very careful in the messages that they share with children about math so they don't inadvertently poison children's thinking. We know that young children like math and also see themselves as mathematically successful. By the time children are in first grade, their initial positive view about math and their own mathematical abilities often dims. This is preventable. It's important to select books that show a wide range of people and cultures involved in everyday math activities and routines. Children need the message that everyone can and should do math. Selecting books that are available in multiple languages also supports families for whom English is not the primary language. Look for books that are available in a wide variety of languages. This allows children more opportunities to share favorite stories with their families. Books like the two that are shown on this slide, Banana for Two and Clean Up Up Up, produced by Starbright Books, do all of the things that we've talked about by featuring human characters, by providing important mathematical vocabulary for infants and toddlers, and multicultural families. They provide bilingual text in Spanish, Hmong, Vietnamese, Somali, among other languages. They also provide suggestions and ideas for families. It's one of the reasons why we're such fans of these books. In closing, we'd like to share some of the free resources created by the California Early Math Project. These resources are available on the project's website and may be quite helpful for families who are working with children at home. The resources on the Early Math Project website include literature reviews for many children's books. Literature reviews and their associated activities are created in English and Spanish. Each review provides summary information about the book, identifies mathematical vocabulary used in the story, and explores how the book can be used to support mathematical understanding. The reviews provide questions that can be used to support mathematical thinking and give links to online resources created by the Early Math Projects and other groups that are related to the books. We created expanded reviews that list information that teachers may be looking for example, non-mathematical vocabulary that may be needed for extra attention, a list of math standards addressed in the book, and fairly comprehensive information about the mathematical connections in the story. We also create a simplified version of each book review for people who don't want all of the teacher information. All of the reviews have links to original activities, games, exploration, and art that complement each story. The activities are written in a format that allow them to be used in classroom math centers, for family math nights, and as family engagement activities that are sent home with children. They have been designed to use readily available, extremely low-cost, free, or recycled materials. Fresno County's Children's Lighthouse has used the activities and reviews as the foundation for a series of math backpacks that families check out as they would a library book. Each math backpack contains a featured book, the simplified version of the literature review, an activity or activities that are related to the book, and the materials needed to do the activities. The activities are appropriate for use at community math events too. They have been designed to simplify the process of putting together school, center, and community math events. As each provides complete instructions, math event coordinators can print activities from the website, assemble materials, and have a series of standalone literature-based math explorations for families to enjoy together. This year, we're really pleased to share some of the new resources that are available on the Early Math Project website. The Early Math Project developed English and Spanish literature reviews and activities for 5 Stuart J. Murphy Math Start books. These are the books that have been highlighted at this year's symposium. You can find these resources at our website, www.earlymathca.org. There are additional resources and materials available at stuartjmurphy.com.
Before we close, let's try one of the literature-inspired math activities on the Early Math Project website. Write the words lanternfish, hermit crab, and starfish each on its own small piece of paper, or draw a small image of each on separate pieces of paper. We will follow 3 simple clues using positional words to figure out where hermit crab, lanternfish, or starfish are located. When you are done figuring out the first 4 clues, try inventing your own set of clues to describe the location of one of the creatures using positional words and share it with others below. In this game, the 3 animals must always be in a line. Animals that are in a horizontal row or vertical column are in a line. There are clues for 4 different lineups. See if you can find more than one way to correctly interpret each set of clues. Here are 4 sets of clues to follow. This activity and additional sets of clues are available on the Early Math Project website. We'll stop for a couple of minutes to give everyone a chance to figure these out and try making a set of your own clues to post below. We want to share these links with you. Each site provides information on using reading and literature to support children's mathematical development. On the right, there are 2 examples of the simplified book reviews created by the Early Math Project. They are available at the first site on the list.
Thank you for joining us. We're always interested to hear about your favorite early math titles and activities. Please send us a list of books that you're excited about, and please feel free to reach out to us if you have questions. Thank you for joining us.